Hi, welcome to my channel. Thank you for coming and watching this video. Those of you who haven't watched a video before, my name is Ruth. I am a mum of two. Jet, a little boy who is 3, and Nova, a girl who is 15 months. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about potty training Jet. First thing I'd say is to not feel pressured age-wise, to not feel like there's kind of a right age to be potty trained. I think if I'm right, the only kind of deadline in your mind is that they just have to be potty trained by school. I don't think they even need to be potty trained by preschool. Don't quote me on that though, which gives you so much time. And I think it's easy to see everyone else potty training and then feeling like that then instantly makes you behind, or like your child is somehow not developing in the way they should be. But it's not at all like that. It's just everyone has different rates and everyone ends up potty trained. They all eventually learn to do all these different things, but at their own rate, and that is completely fine. I know definitely for Jet, like all his friends around him, girls and boys, both completely overtook him on the potty training front. But I just didn't mind, and I didn't want to push him, and I really didn't want to do what I'd heard some horror stories from friends of when they'd started potty training too early and then had to give up, which then kind of can set the child back a bit. It's a lot more emotional for the child than I'd realised, which I'll talk about with Jet, but I think if you try and then stop, it's all very confusing and a bit overwhelming for them. So I'd definitely say to kind of wait longer than you think rather than preempting. So with Jet, he started showing some interest kind of about 6 to 8 months ago. When Nova was about 6 months, I think it was around that kind of time, he started showing a bit more interest. Whenever he did his business in his nappy, he'd tell us after he'd done it. There's kind of rough signs of them being ready, so they start talking about it. Once they've done it, then they might start telling you about it before they actually even do it. Jet never got to that point, but he was telling us once he'd done it, and then the nearer it got to now, you could tell he started getting more and more uncomfortable once he had done it, and he didn't want a wet nappy, or he didn't want to poo in his nappy for any time at all. We've had a potty for absolutely ages, just kind of sat out in their rooms. He's kind of seen it and been aware of it, but he's had no interest. And then again, about maybe like 6 months ago, we started taking his nappy off a bit prematurely before bath time and just trying to encourage him to sit on the potty, or just generally be aware of his toilet functions and the feeling of needing a wee. Just trying to kind of really normalize it, make him think about going to the toilet rather than it just being this thing that he did mindlessly in his nappy. And pre-bath time just felt like quite a safe time to do it. He didn't show any signs other than that, so he showed those initial signs of talking about it a bit after he'd gone to the toilet, and then he never really progressed from there, and I wouldn't say he got any closer to showing signs other than that. And then I think me and Henry, obviously it's in the back of your mind, he had just turned 3, and I thought, oh, we'll do it probably around this summer when it's nice and sunny and he can just be in his pants or swimming trunks most of the day, and it just makes it all a bit easier rather than potty training over winter when they're in loads of layers and it's just a lot more of a faff to quickly whip their trousers off and go to the toilet. So a bit in the back of my mind anyway. And then I think Henry just got a bit fed up. Henry's been really keen for us to potty train for a while, and I've just been nervous. I've just been really nervous to start and then it be a fail. But Henry was like, no, I'm done. I'm fed up of changing pooey nappies, and he's ready, he's old enough, let's just go for it. So on the Sunday, we started talking to him about it, and then that afternoon we popped to the shops and went with him to buy some pants. When we put him to bed, we said, tomorrow morning when you wake up, we're not going to put a nappy on you, you're just going to be in your big boy pants all day, and just try to really kind of prep him for the idea. So then the Monday morning, I made no plans and we were just home all day, and he was just in his pants. A few of the things I hadn't really clocked is you then need to learn their toilet habits. How often are they needing a wee? When they're in their nappy, you don't know across a day how many times they're actually going for a wee. I knew roughly that he did a poo like beginning and end of the day, but with wees I didn't really know. So I just started off by asking him constantly every like 5-10 minutes. So then in terms of rewards as well, obviously we talked a lot about rewards right from the beginning. So from that morning when he woke up, I said, if you do any wee-wees in the potty, you can have a chocolate raisin. If you do a poo in the potty, you can have 3 chocolate raisins. So I was asking him every kind of 5-10 minutes, getting him to sit down, and then we made up a song with some little actions. So we'd sit and sing this song and he'd wait, and then he'd ask for a chocolate raisin. And so then I just started giving him a chocolate raisin if he even sat on the potty and tried, and I'd say, well done, you're like such a good boy for trying, well done. Because So I just wanted it to be a really positive relationship, him and his potty. Because we were at home, we were just doing loads of playing, and so he'd just get really distracted. We're building his train track and he wasn't wanting to stop that to come and have a wee, and he definitely wasn't thinking about when he needed a wee. So then throughout that day, I'd say we had like a 50-50 success, which I was pretty happy with. And with a poo, he'd done one in his nappy that morning, so I kind of knew we were off the hook for the day. And then near the end of the day, I think again I noticed maybe he said his tummy was sore or something. He said he did something that was like a bit of a sign, I can't remember what. And then he went and tried. I found still now, kind of 2-3 weeks on, he just doesn't like sitting on the potty for long at all. So even a wee, sometimes he kind of stands up when it's not quite finished, and then we end up having to change his pants. So he'd sit down and then within 5 seconds be like, oh, I don't need one, then get back up again. I just had to keep asking and asking and asking. But then eventually there was a point where he needed it enough where I asked him and he sat down and he did it. And just absolutely poured praise over him. Henry works in his office downstairs, so I like called him up as well so he could both congratulate him, and did a little dance and picked him up and just really absolutely praised him. So he was so chuffed, and obviously had his little handful of chocolate raisins as well for his poos. That was great. I felt good after that first day, just knowing that we had a positive experience with wees and poos. Then day 2 was nursery. So in a way I was more confident with nursery, because I thought, oh, they know what they're doing, because they've had all these different children that have been potty trained. But I think actually in reality there was so many distractions, there's so many children, he probably doesn't feel quite as safe as he does with me. And so I sent in all his trousers. To be fair, he has quite a minimal wardrobe anyway, but I did send all his trousers, all his pants, and he got through them all that day. I just had my eyes on him the whole time when we were at home, just me and him. And then obviously at nursery there's a lot of them. But they did say he had a few successes, so I didn't then feel very hopeful going into day 3. I thought, oh, maybe we've kind of regressed back again. But then from day 3 onwards, we didn't have any accidents, and it was just amazing. So again, I just kept doing the same thing. So I was maybe asking every kind of like 15-20 minutes. I think by this point we were running low on chocolate raisins. So at this point he got a normal raisin for a wee and then a chocolate raisin for a poo. So kept talking about them, and sometimes he'd like hold the little jar of raisins while he was doing his wee. He could really see the reward that he was gonna get. And we did sing the song, and again, just trying to keep it really positive. When I was prepping him all about it, I said, if you need a wee, you need to say, mummy, mummy, I need a wee. And I didn't really clock that I was saying mummy, mummy twice. And so then now every time he needs a wee, he just repeats exactly what I told him to say. So he's always, mummy, mummy, I need a wee. It's very sweet. A few times on day 3, he actually asked, which was amazing. And then he obviously loves raisins, and so kind of clocked. And so he'd do his wee, get his raisin, and then about a minute later, he'd be like, mummy, mummy, I need a wee. He'd sit on the potty, wouldn't do one, and then be like, can I have a raisin? I think at this point as well, if he hadn't done one for maybe a while, I was then still occasionally saying, oh, you can have a raisin, just for being a good boy and trying to sit on the potty. But then by day 3, when I could tell he was getting a bit more confident, I realised he was starting to play me a bit. So he would go for a wee successfully, have a raisin, then like a minute later he'd go back on the potty, and then he'd be like, I was a good boy for trying, shall I have a raisin? And he totally knew. Then I explained, okay, we're just gonna have raisins when you do your wee on the potty, not just for sitting on the potty. Because by then I felt like the relationship with the potty was kind of set enough that he didn't need a reward just for sitting on it, otherwise he was going to sit on it all day. Oh yeah, and then on day 3 he hadn't done a poo, and I think we'd run out of chocolate raisins, maybe we needed to go to the shop, and so I said, oh, if you do a poo you can watch an episode of Peppa. But then obviously it meant he sat on the potty for ages trying to go, even though he clearly didn't need to go because he really wanted to watch Peppa. So on that morning he then did do one, and then he watched Peppa. But then again, of course, anytime he wanted to watch TV, he then was like, I need a poo, because he thought that would then mean he could watch TV. So yeah, I found rewards a bit hard, because they obviously want the reward so much, they want to then do what they need to do to get it. But then it's kind of you kind of scoping out the situation, knowing how much they actually need it, and yeah, what they're doing just to get the reward. Which is fine, I mean, if they do the wee, it's great, but yeah, just trying to explain to him what the rewards are and why they're there, and that they're not there just for like sitting and desperately trying, even though we all know he doesn't need to go. But yeah, so from day 3 onwards, we braved out to the park in the afternoon, and I took the potty, and he was brilliant. He was playing, and a couple of times throughout the afternoon he'd say, mummy, mummy, I need a wee, and we'd come and quickly do his wee in the potty, and then he'd go back and carry on playing. And yeah, I just remember that day feeling like such a exciting breakthrough, and like we were in this new phase of life. Since then he's been fine. I was really surprised how emotional he found it all. So even though actually our experience was very smooth sailing, is that the expression? He definitely was very emotionally unstable for pretty much the whole first week. He asked for me loads at nursery and was very emotional when I got to nursery. And when I got to nursery, he'd been sat at the table and we hadn't noticed, and then he stood up to come over and his trousers were completely wet and he was really embarrassed and didn't want anyone to look at him, and yeah, it was just really embarrassed and it was horrible. And just generally that whole week was just a lot more emotional. There was obviously still really positive moments throughout the week, and when he did his little successful wheeze, he was really excited, and we still had fun days at the park and whatever, but just generally the kind of overriding sense was that he was just very emotionally fragile. And I think it's just such a big change, and obviously the nappy is such a security thing, it's just so easy. I hadn't quite clocked how much that change is just very emotional. And so I think, again, that's why it's so important to try and not do it before they're ready. But I found just very, very gentle parenting, and we watched a lot more telly than we normally would. It was almost like a week of being ill, and I kind of just gave myself over to the fact that it was going to be a bit of a boring week for me in terms of we weren't going to go out and see any friends, but just to kind of follow his lead and just take it really slowly and calmly. And obviously as well, I mean, I think this is quite obvious, but just not to ever scold him at all for accidents, and just to each time I'd kind of re-explain, oh, that's a shame that your pants are wet because that's not very comfortable for you, let's change them, and don't forget when you need your weebie you just tell mummy and we can do it in the potty and then you'll have nice dry pants, and just kind of re-explaining that it was kind of a shame, but never being like, oh, you did your wee, why did you do that? Even though in my head on the first day when it was like 50-50, which was obviously then like a lot of accidents, I was like, oh my goodness, are you serious? I've just asked you like every 2 minutes the past 20 minutes and then you do an accident. But obviously not letting on that that's how you feel. And then the rewards, I think, just letting them be quite malleable. I think in my head I was like, well, I have this reward and this reward, but actually as the potty becomes easier, or as wees become easier, or if they're really holding on to their poos or whatever it is, kind of following their lead of what needs to be rewarded. And then we kind of weaned him off rewards quite easily, to be fair, because we went to our refill store, did a pot of chocolate raisins, and then when they ran out I just said, well, they're run out now, so there aren't any more. So then he still had raisins occasionally, but then I found as well he just stopped asking, because by then it was just really normal to him to do a wee, and now he doesn't really think anything of it. He's just playing and he runs and does a wee and then comes back and carries on playing. So the rewards kind of naturally ended probably like 10 days in. I still now ask him if he needs a wee, especially if we're like about to go somewhere. So if we're about to do a car journey, I definitely ask him before we go, and then as soon as we arrive I ask him again. But then other than that, he instigates it most of the time now. He's then been quite emotional about me putting a nappy on him at night, which I found hard to gauge. So he has a nap maybe like 2 times a week, and on those I'm not putting him in a nappy, and I put his potty by his bed. And then in the night it's been really interesting, because he was waking up with a full nappy, and since potty training he's now waking up with it like wet but only very slightly, and he's always, first thing he says in the morning is, I need a wee, I need a wee. And then we come through, take his nappy off, and he does like a big morning style wee. So he's obviously holding on to it, which is amazing, but it is still a little bit wet from the night. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video of our nighttime potty training. Anyway, that's pretty much it now. If I haven't covered anything, apologies. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments and I'll definitely answer them. One last thing, sorry, before I go, I just want to quickly talk about our potty. We've got this, which is the My Carry potty, and we were very kindly sent it by Cheeky Rascals, but they actually now don't stock it anymore, because they sent it when Jet was about 1 and they don't stock it, but I'll link it below. It's available, well, they've got their own website, and then it's available from Boots and I think Mothercare. I think it's about £25. I can't recommend it enough. First of all, Jet loves it because it's a bee and it's other little animals. Then you can carry it, which he thinks is the best thing ever. He thinks it's like a little suitcase and he carries it around. But what's so great is, so you twist this little thing and then open it, and then they can sit down and do their wee, and then it closes and seals. So if you're out somewhere and you, for some reason, can't discard whatever they've just done, you can shut it and it's sealed and it's not going to go anywhere, and it's kind of safe to then travel wherever you're then going to then get rid of it. With trying to reduce our waste, I know there's the little one that kind of folds out and you put a little nappy bag in, but obviously you're just then throwing away all these nappy bags, whereas this, you're not producing any waste at all. They just wee or poo whatever and then you chuck it away and it's just perfect. So I'd highly recommend this little bad boy. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Have a lovely week and we'll see you soon. Peace out.